The Dallas Mavericks are a interesting team, to say the least. Currently, they are sitting in the 7th seed in the Western Conference, but they are only a game out of 5th. They're only 2 games out of 4th. So there's plenty of potential, plenty of upside. Kyrie Irving is back into the rotation, back in the lineup, and the two of them hopefully can continue to work in a positive direction to lead to more wins. The Mavs started off really well and have kind of tapered off a little bit, although a lot of the games in the beginning were just Luka heroics. I mean, a lot of games, period, have kind of boiled down to Luka's heroics. And personally, I wasn't a big fan of how they filled out their roster around Luka and Kyrie. I think that, there's still a lot of questions about Luka and how he pairs next to another star. There's even kind of murmurs that Kyrie isn't super happy there. But regardless, Dallas is in a win now position, right? They are in a position where they have to do what they can to basically put the best roster possible around Luka Doncic as well as Kyrie Irving, try to make a push to win a championship as soon as possible. Last thing you want to do is have Luka start expressing some frustrations or potentially asking to, hey, get me out of here, right? That was the whole idea in getting a Kyrie Irving, right? Kyrie, his role is kind of weird at times, right? Although when he is engaged and he is kind of a part of what's going on, he's been excellent for the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie, we know what he is as a player, but again, jury's still out in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of questions. Are the Dallas Mavericks good enough to actually contend in the Western Conference? Personally, I don't think so. Personally, could they make top 4 or 5 seed? Sure. And obviously, you never want to bet against Luka. He's been amazing in the playoffs. I'm not sold that they are better than like the Nuggets or even the Wolves, and definitely not the Celtics. I mean, you can make the Bucks argument. There's several teams that I think are still a ways ahead of the Dallas Mavericks, but they are one of the teams that are linked to Pascal Siakam. Now, as far as a Pascal Siakam trade goes, right, on the surface, you look at it, man, Luka, Pascal, right, you have Kyrie Irving, got a sizable 6'8", play the small forward, power forward position, right, 7'3" wingspan. Top of that, he's a guy that could defend the best player on the other team. Dallas's defense at times is really questionable. Pascal is still young enough to where he fits kind of the Kyrie, Luka win now timeline. This is a guy that you'd be adding that basically can do a little bit of everything, give you even some playmaking out of the forward position. Like when Luka is out of the game, right, you can kind of run your offense through Siakam. The games that Kyrie misses, right, you still have that kind of playmaker for you. You'd be adding, a 22, 6 and 5 guy, which would be, again, wonderful. This is a guy that was the second best player on a championship team behind Kawhi Leonard with the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors are looking to move off of him, right? So on the surface, it could make some sense, right? Looking at a guy who could come in and be just another key component to this roster. But couple things, right? One, personally, this is just me, I think OG Anunoby would have made more sense, right? If you would have gotten OG, because he's a guy that doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, excellent off the ball, could play defense. Like, that was the guy that I think made sense for Dallas. Pascal, I'm not big on, right? Because, yes, he's a guy that could go give you 20. He's a guy that could defend the best player on the other team. He's a guy that would be very versatile in and on the Dallas Mavericks. But he can't shoot, right? 28.5% from 3 this season. He's a career 32% three-point shooter. And Dallas likes to really spread the floor, kind of let Luka operate and have guys out on the perimeter. Siakam just doesn't help in that regard, so I don't know how he would fit offensively in the system. And then the other big thing is, so then who's your third? Is it Siakam is your third player? Is it Kyrie? Because Luka's going to be the number one guy, right? Luka's going to be the guy that's on the ball, that's going to have the ball, that's going to be making the decisions, that's going to be making the plays, right? So what, does Siakam become your fallback, right? Does he even really make sense in that regard, right? You're almost better off going and getting like some mid-tier guys. I almost feel like, you know, if you're, I almost feel like if you're Dallas, go look to maybe go get like a Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal, right? I know they already had Dorian Finney-Smith, but that would be somebody that I think would make sense. Could defend the best player on the other team, give you some shooting, right? Something like that, rather than going like, to me, if I'm Dallas, instead of going and getting Siakam and having a questionable fit, I would look to go kind of upgrade in certain areas, upgrade in certain positions, right? Go get maybe some more just higher quality 3-and-D guys. So I was saying, like, OG, I thought made a ton of sense for Dallas. But Pascal Siakam, not really so sure. Now, you have a couple factors, right? So there's like the new ownership, right? Mark Cuban, his majority stake sale went through. So do you get kind of the Matt Ishbia effect of the Phoenix Suns, where it's like, just go get me the names and let's figure it out, right? And you just kind of want to go get the pieces and see if you can, make it work, right? You usually see that with the new owner effect, right? It's like, well, Pascal's the biggest name available right now that could fill some of the need, some of the void that we have. Like, go get him, bring him in, and then we'll figure it out, right? Also, he gives us another, guy as insurance just in case, we do end up having to trade Kyrie at some point or something, right? The other issue is, will Pascal stay? So there are reports that he, regardless, is going to enter free agency. That regardless, he wants to be a free agent because he'd get more money out on the open market. So you run the risk of him being a one-year rental. Now, the other thing is, too, is that if he is the third guy and he's going from being the number one to the number three guy, or, some people might look at Scotty Barnes. So regardless, he's the number one or number two guy to go to the number three guy. And if the fit doesn't work and the fit doesn't really make sense, then it's like, okay, well, why would I stay here? So then that's another knock on it where it's like, okay, well, now you may end up being in trouble in that regard. So I think there are the concerns of like, is it even worth even exploring that type of trade, right? Because also the other thing is like, what is Dallas going to give up that makes sense for Atlanta, right? Like what possible pieces could they look at and go, okay, like that's the guy that makes sense, right? Like you have like contracts, you have pieces and stuff, but like, maybe like a Jaden Hardy, but he's been really good for them. Is he really worth like getting rid of? Like outside of that, it's like you're not giving up Derek Lively, right? He's like your main center, and he's been really good for them this season. Like Grant Williams, I don't think makes any sense in that regard. Like you have like Tim Hardaway Jr. that I think you could part with, right? There's questions like, will they resign him? Like, what's going to happen there? But outside of that, it's like, who's on Dallas that you look at Toronto and they're like, that's the guy we want? Especially because Toronto's not looking for like just picks or anything like that. They're looking for like players that can help kind of retool this roster around like Scotty Barnes and now Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. That's kind of where they're at, right? So I don't think Siakam makes any sense. I also think, again, his fit next to Luka, I don't think would make any sense. Like, there's still questions about Kyrie's fit next to Luka, right? Again, at times it looks like, okay, like, they're pretty good together, but then there's times where it's just, Luka's one of the most ball-dominant players we have ever seen. I mean, his usage rate is like all-time high. So it's just like, the only way you're going to make it work is to have a bunch of like 3-and-D style shooters around, right? Like basically have several OG Anunoby, right? Like go get several of those guys. Have like like if they would have had like an OG, a Dorian Finney-Smith, a Royce O'Neal, and then maybe like, Lively and Luka, right? It's like, okay, well that makes sense, right? You got basically three guys that can defend and switch and rotate. You got your center, that's your lob threat, that can rebound and all that stuff, and then you got Luka just on the ball. Like something like that, I think would have been the way that obviously those are all like top guys, but you get my point, right? I think Dallas has the idea. I just think the players aren't as good as they need to be if they're legitimately trying to win a championship. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think Dallas makes sense for Pascal Siakam? Do you think Pascal Siakam makes sense for Dallas? Do you think, that it's a trade that will happen, that should happen? How do you feel? What your thoughts are? I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Thank you.